Roma, your investigation, which was called Laundromat, that was an investigation with a number of media, but you were working on it, showed how the money was laundered through numbers of European banks, including the Moldovan banks, and it was like a huge amount of money, up to 22 million, as far as I remember.
Billion.
22 billion of the US dollars. So what is the result? Do we see what's going on with this story?
Well, it depends on different countries. So let's say that the main victim is Russia, and there are no any results because there were two criminal cases started after our investigation, which started 3 years ago. And I was witness in both cases, and I saw that the investigators, they didn't want to do anything real, let's say. Because the criminal cases were started by the laws departments of the investigative committee, which means that the Russian state was not really interested in investigating the case. But simultaneously, we had very good results in other European countries. So there was an investigation started in the UK, and there were hearings in Parliament, and the Deputy Minister of Finance had to explain, why the British banks and companies were involved in this scheme. Simultaneously, there was a big case in Denmark, and the Prime Minister had to say that, he doesn't like the situation, and he's very sorry that it happened with Danish banks. And there is an ongoing investigation as well. And the latest news is that 2 days ago, actually, I heard about it just today. A friend of mine, Paul Rado, who was involved in the investigation as well, told me that there is a commission, a special commission inside the European Parliament, which is called the Russian Laundromat, just as our story, that they will study the case. And the main idea is to understand why the European banks were involved in the money laundering and why their compliance procedures did not work.
So, of course, the people could read the full investigation, and we would encourage them, again, those who don't know maybe, but really, who are the main beneficiaries, in the end, in this large scheme?
There are many of them, to be honest, and so the money was mixed. The money from different crimes was mixed. So the biggest beneficiary we were able to identify was a mysterious businessman who is the main contractor to the Russian railways. Alexei Krapivin, and he was involved in many, I would say, scandals and criminal cases all over the world. But among others, there were European parties, pro-Russian parties, which got the money. There were multinational corporations like Siemens, like Hitachi, and others. And of course, it doesn't mean that they were stealing the money from Russia, but it means that they were involved in grey import schemes. So you can call them the smuggling schemes.
To what extent the big banks can control, and if you generally assess the situation, that there would be the big bank or companies would have their smaller companies in Estonia or the Baltics or elsewhere, so that's kind of a usual way to launder the funds. What depends on the headquarters? To what extent the headquarters can and are eager to remain, have a good reputation and can say that, oh, that was not us?
Right, so look, an important word you mentioned is whether they are eager or not, because on the one hand, they are not responsible for clients which are out of their bank. So they're responsible just for the clients inside their banks, and they gotta check them, they gotta control them, and so on. But they do not check clients which send money to their clients from foreign countries or from foreign banks. Which was a problem in laundromat case. So what the big banks said, they said that, our client was okay. Our client was, let's say, Siemens. But Siemens got money from bogus companies, shell companies, from notorious banks like Trasta Commerzbank. Its license was revoked recently from Moldovan Bank, Moldincon Bank, and so on. So I would say that the main problem here is the will. If the banks want to control the money flows, if they don't want to be involved in these big money laundering scandals, then they gotta check not only their clients, but also the origin of the money which their clients get.
Regarding the country, Moldova had been particularly kind of in the heart of it all. And so that is very special case when you have a small country, which is more or less, so many had been done through that. So really, are you following the case? What's happening in this, in the most involved country?
Well, look, the main problem here is that the main victim is Russia. And with money laundering cases, you always, in order to prove money laundering, you got to prove the first crime, because money laundering is always the second crime. So in order to prove money laundering, you got to prove the predicate, so the first crime. And Moldovans, the main problem with them was that they couldn't get any docs and help from Russia. So they were asking for help, they were begging for help, and they got nothing.
With the results, the investigation have become international, the journalistic investigation. But how about the law enforcement? Are they still in our region, in Eastern Europe, able to investigate something on their own? And are the things moving in that direction?
Well, they are. Let's say that in Russia, the case was pretty well investigated by the operatives from FSB. They did a really good job. But when it came to a criminal case itself, because you know that before starting a criminal case, you got to do a lot of job in terms of proving the crime and so on. So before the criminal case, they did a really good job. The same in Moldova. But when it came to criminal case, which means punishment for people involved, then the problem started. Because you know, in this particular case, some big names were involved, including Igor Putin, who is he's not brother-in-law, I don't remember. Well, he's relative to the president, to Vladimir Putin. And some people from FSB were involved as well. So when it comes to a criminal case, people are not so eager, I mean the law enforcement are not so eager to investigate them up to the end, because otherwise they would need to imprison those who are in power.
So there is always the question, how difficult is really to investigate Putin, you know, and what we really know. Because I think there is a will of the reporters to find out something.
Well, we know a lot, but the problem is when you say proving things, Putin is smart. He will never sign any doc and he will never sign any financial records and so on. So he is a smart guy. So in terms of proving, you know, we've proved a lot with Panama Papers and with the Raldugin case, because in my opinion, it's not Raldugin's money, it's Putin's money, yeah? And we had a lot of collateral proof to say that. But I mean, yeah, you are right. You know, there is no any signature by Putin. There is no any signature by anybody else from his family, because they're smart people, you know. But you know, if we think as law enforcement, we say that there is a bunch of proofs. We couldn't find a man with a gun, you know, who shot somebody, but you know, we could find witnesses who say that they saw him. We could find I don't know, wiretaps and so on and so forth. The same with financial crimes. You know, you will not find a doc signed by the president, but you'll find many other docs signed by people who are close to him.